The Legendary Explorer Award is awarded to recognize a feat of such courage and incredible accomplishment that has transcended the ordinary bounds of history. Some of its past awardees have included astronaut Scott Carpenter, John Glenn, Dame Jane Goodall, and this year to Rusty Schweickart. Russell Rusty L. Schweickart, the noted Apollo 9 lunar module pilot, served as backup commander for the first Skylab mission, where his work in overcoming initial solar shield problems earned him NASA's Exceptional Service Medal in 1973. Schweickart is the founder and past president of the Association of Space Explorers, the International Professional Society of Astronauts and Cosmonauts. The association's first book, The Home Planet, with a preface by Schweickart, was published simultaneously in 10 countries in 1988 and was an immediate international bestseller. Schweickart also founded the Association of Space Explorers Committee on Near-Earth Objects from 2005 through 2011. The association's committee works with the UN on resolving the international geopolitical issues inherent in near-Earth object impact threats. At this time, I'd like to welcome President Richard Garriott, who has some words for Rusty as well.
And pardon, Rusty, I just wanted to take a moment of presidential prerogative to step up and say, you know, Lynn mentioned how much fondness she has for astronauts and all things space. Well, you know, as you may know, my father was also an astronaut, and frankly, every adult, every parent of all of my friends growing up were also astronauts. So astronauts to me are not so impressive based upon the fact that they're astronauts. And in fact, I actually think that, you know, just drawing this short straw to get assigned to a particular mission that does something particularly famous is also not good reason on its own to be considered a legendary explorer. In my mind, as I look at astronauts who I've known through my life, which is pretty much all of the astronauts, what they do before, during, or after that pulling that short straw, it's other than that random assignment or chosen, you know, logical assignment, what their contributions, their other contributions, are what really matters. And I know Rusty's going to talk about it a little bit here, but it's incredibly important. When you think of the Association of Space Explorers, founded in the Cold War and has persisted through now, where we also have great global tensions, Rusty and Alexei Leonov are really responsible for something I think has had outsized impact on the history of our world. And similarly with B612, that I'm sure he'll talk about too, for planetary defense with asteroids, he was doing it long before it was cool. Long before there were movies made about it, long before now it's one of the common things we talk about at many of our events. So I just wanted to say, Rusty, in my mind, you truly are a legendary explorer. I am so proud to have you coming up here on the stage. Thank you.
I started out life about 60 miles south of here on a very small farm on the coast of New Jersey. A little town called Manasquan. Some of you may know Manasquan, being here on the East Coast. I can remember when I headed off to MIT. To give you an idea, I mean, I'm 88 years old, and to give you an idea, when I grew up as a little kid, we didn't yet, tractors weren't a thing. We had a couple of horses that helped plow the fields. When I applied to MIT, happily being accepted, our annual income that we reported for the year before in that application form, $1,800. So I mean, this is a small farm. That's what I grew up on. But World War II and was going on, and so the skies over our farm were filled by the Navy fighter planes out of Lakehurst Naval Air Station. And I grew up fascinated with not just the clouds, but the things flying around between them, the airplanes. And that started me with my interest in flying, which led into, at MIT, Air Force ROTC, and becoming a fighter pilot. When you become a fighter pilot, no question, you want to go higher, you want to go faster. That leads only one place, and that's space, right? So that was the sequence of events, and that sequence led me, after my Air Force career, back to MIT for graduate school, and then, and by that time it was not aeronautical engineering anymore, but aeronautics and astronautics. And that led me then to apply and become a member of the third group of Apollo of astronauts, sort of the Apollo selection. Now, if you want to know anything about that, I'm going to recommend going to Wikipedia or something like that, because what I'm going to talk about is not in particular that space experience or that space happening, the facts of the matter, but what I have elected to do, being a senior citizen and taking the privilege to do so. I'd like to talk to you about the personal experience, what my sense of that, how I lived it, what I felt about it, thinking about it a lot, the implications for the future of life on this planet and beyond. And so that's what I want to share with you today. And that first experience that really I lived was before my mission on Apollo 9, when my friends Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and in particular Bill Anders flew out to the moon on Christmas, around Christmas of December 1988. 1968, pardon me. And this, of course, was the iconic picture taken by Bill. They had flown, if you will, backward for the first 3 orbits around the moon, and then finally turned around and were shocked to see the Earth coming up over the lunar horizon. And this has become the iconic Earthrise photograph that Bill took. And this, of course, occurred just 3 months before my Apollo 9 mission. And because of my relationship with the other guys, I thought a lot about this scene. These were the first human beings who had literally left the immediate gravitational influence of the Earth and actually orbited another body out in the cosmos, out in the solar system, and looked back and saw the Earth. Now, at the time, they talked about we flew to the moon, but what we really saw was the Earth. I see it a bit bigger than that, because it was not just my 3 friends, but this was the first time human beings really recognized the Earth as out there, the home of all of life that we know. Now, on Apollo 9, one of the things that I was particularly doing as lunar module pilot was to test the lunar suit, the new Apollo suit, and the backpack, which allowed my buddies to run around later on the moon. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do that, but nevertheless, I got outside in the suit, tested it, etc. And one of the things that we were doing the day after this was we were going out to do the first rendezvous, as if we were coming up off the moon later on in missions, and rendezvousing with our heat shield because we wanted to get back safely home. And so this, you can see the handrail there in front of me that runs up to the right and then across the top of the lunar module. And in case something was wrong with the tunnel the next day, the last objective I had on my EVA here was to get out of the golden slippers, which I had on the front porch I'm in now, and come up that handrail across the top of the lunar module, demonstrating that we could we could travel externally if the tunnel was crumped or we couldn't get the probe and drogue out of it. so that we could get home safely by going outside to get back into the command module. So that was the last objective we had, and you can see here Jim McDivitt took this picture of me out the front window. I was part way up the front of the lunar module when Dave Scott, who was documenting this with a movie camera, said, Jim, the camera just jammed. And of course, that was the documentation for the task. And so Jim said, Dave, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to try to get the camera working again. Rusty, stay right there. Aye, aye, sir. Perfect. Unemployed in space. And somehow, I quite literally decided on the spur of that moment, I'm going to just be a human being. This is my 5 minutes. Dave is working. I don't know what Jim's doing, but I'm going to take the time to be a human being here. And I let go, as you can see with my right hand, from holding on to the handrail, and I just turned around to see this absolutely incredible sight. What I did was I said to myself, let this come in. Your job is to be a sponge. What the hell is going on here? How did I get here? I'm a farm kid from 60 miles south of here, and here I am in space. And my friend had just come back from orbiting the moon. And I thought to myself, what is this? How did I get here? And it wasn't, Saturn V or the U.S. taxpayer. It was humanity has achieved that moment in evolution when we, in combination with our machines, are able to move out from planet Earth. That's what's happening here. This is a moment in history when we are beginning to move out into the cosmos. And I said, and how, why am I here? I mean, I don't deserve this. This isn't for me. And then I got thinking again, what do I mean by me? Am I me or am I us? This is us moving out. And I realized that my job, I was simply a representative of humankind at this amazing moment in history. That was the beginning of a number of thoughts. Also at this time, there were a very seminal thinker, Jim Lovelock, had come up with the Gaia hypothesis, recognizing that the Earth is a living system and there's tremendous communication through all the living systems of the planet. And as I got thinking about it, I realized that this is a process that I came to call cosmic birth. This process that we are historically experiencing. And if you think about birth, it is a time when, in fact, the demand for energy from the mother is exceeding her capacity to provide, as well as the processing of waste. And I thought that this is exactly a metaphor of what's going on here on Earth. We're expecting too much. We're demanding too much from the planet to provide the growth that we're involved in intrinsically, and producing too much waste. And the contractions that we're experiencing are a direct analog to what we know of as birth. So I began to see this larger picture. This is not just an individual experience. We are one life, and that becomes obvious when you look down from space at this planet. So one of the things that happens, and I want to emphasize that, is that it's after birth that the former fetus begins to love the mother. Before birth, it's all one way. Mom's doing everything. But after birth, we begin to recognize mom as we have, and to begin to, the love flows two ways. Now, with love comes responsibility. And so in my next steps in life, it was like, what's important here? And one of the things we were becoming aware of at that time was that existential issues would preclude this birth process. And one of the existential issues we were becoming aware of was asteroids hitting the Earth. Ask the dinosaurs, right? And so a bunch of us got together. Long story short, we have looked at this whole issue of the asteroid impact threat. We've learned how to deflect. We've begun to do the testing. The DART mission, which I'm sure most of you are very aware of, was the first deflection experiment. You know, we found that, in fact, we can protect the Earth from asteroid impacts, provided we have enough early warning. And as Don Yeomans, who was one of the JPL guys who really worked this issue first, used to say, the three most important things in planetary defense are find them early, and find them early. And so we've also taken on that task, and later this month, at the very end of the month, you'll read some of the success we've had in developing a totally new way to discover asteroids and other moving objects in space. And in one fell swoop, we will have found over 20,000 new asteroids largely, but other moving objects in space as well. That's a very interesting discovery that's come out of the formation of this organization called B612 Foundation. In addition, as was mentioned a few minutes ago, and looking at the Earth, I realized how important this was. Certainly to me, the implications are huge, and they far exceeded all of the geopolitical separations between the US and at that time the Soviet Union, but all nations on Earth. These are real problems. There's no question about it. Geopolitics is serious stuff. But when you look at the Earth from space, there are very few people around the world who have this perspective. And so I, at the height of the Cold War, set my goal on forming an association of people, an organization of people who had had this experience, this direct experience, and that became the Association of Space Explorers. And B612 and the Association of Space Explorers has taken on this issue of protecting the Earth from this existential threat of asteroids. And that's what that next picture shows. We're talking about the clockwork of the universe, locally the clockwork of the solar system. And long story short, what I want to tell you is when you stand at 60,000 feet or 600,000 feet, whatever, and look at this, think about it. We now have the power, the capability to very slightly alter the clockwork of the solar system to enhance the survival of life here on Earth. We are Earth life together, and we have this capability. With that capability and it being an existential threat, we have a responsibility. So these are the things that to me have shaped me from the space experience, growing up on a farm to this incredible moment in history when we are being born into the cosmos. In the last couple of years, I've become fascinated with something called big history, and this takes the level of the observer to an even greater depth. This is the one equation that I'll give you in this talk, and it's a very simple equation. It says Big Bang plus time equals life. We are a product of this incredible process from the quantum soup at the left-hand point on this diagram moving across the 13.8 billion years of time since the Big Bang, and here we are out at the far end of this, at the current time. And if you look at this and think about it, that evolution from a quantum soup to physics to chemistry and chemistry enabling at a point that we don't understand, but biology, and with the introduction of biology out here 2/3 of the way or more toward us, with the introduction of biology, physics and chemistry, if you think about it, don't give a damn. They just are. Biology cares. It wants to continue. It wants to grow. It wants to evolve. And it begins to manipulate the local environment around it to ensure that that happens. We are a product of that flow out here on the end. And that reality, allow yourself to put what we are collectively into that process. That's incredible. We are the local representation of this plan, this incredible process. And because we recognize it and we are beginning to understand it, we have a responsibility. We are the most powerful agent in the decision of, will we be successfully born in this process out of Mother Earth? Or will we become part of, doubtless, many, many, many incidents where that process has repeated but has failed to make it through that birthing process? It's not clear whether we will be successfully born into the cosmos or whether we will be a failed experiment. We are the local representatives, and we are the agents who will determine this. And so this picture of the Earth and our responsibility as the children of planet Earth, of Mother Earth, this is what I feel I have learned, and pass it on to you. This is your responsibility. It's our responsibility. Thank you so much.